Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. If it's your first time watching my channel, please remember to click like, subscribe, and comment on the video. And today we're going to be talking about the problem and solution essay. So in last week's video, we started talking about the problem and solution essay. And we talked about dealing with fairly well-accepted problems. The example that we looked at in our mentor text dealt with marine pollution. We also talked about issues like poverty and illiteracy. Few reasonable people would argue that these aren't important problems and that they don't need a solution. However, there are a lot of problems that people have different opinions on. These are controversial issues. So when we're dealing with a controversial issue, the structure of our problem and solution essay is going to look a little bit different. So today, we're going to take a look at some of those differences. So this is the structure that we looked at last week when we said we're dealing with a very well-accepted problem. Our introduction is going to hook the reader. We're going to have a short explanation of the problem, and then we're going to have our thesis statement. And remember, when we present our thesis to the reader, we're telling the reader that these three solutions are important to solving the problem. Then each solution gets its own paragraph in the body of the essay. And then finally, in the conclusion, we signal the end of the essay, we restate the problem, we summarize our solution or our thesis, and we end with a concluding thought. Now remember, we said that we were writing about ocean pollution, marine pollution. We started out, we engaged our reader, we had a great first sentence there. And we gave a brief explanation of the problem. We talked about how much trash is entering the ocean. And then we had our thesis right here. The best way to clean up the oceans is to stop using single-use plastics. That was our first potential solution. Participate in coastal cleanups and recycle all plastic waste. That was the third. And each one of those things got its own body paragraph. There's reducing single-use plastics, cleaning up beaches and coastal areas, and recycling plastic waste. Then when we move down to our introduction, we're signaling the end of our essay here. We're restating that problem, the problem of plastic in the world's oceans. We're restating our thesis, the best way to clean up the oceans is to do those three things mentioned in each body paragraph above. And then finally, we're ending by leaving our reader with a strong concluding thought. All global citizens must act to deter this threat before it's too late. So we just took a look at last week's essay, which was on marine pollution. Now, marine pollution is a fairly well accepted problem. I think everyone can agree that we'd be a lot better off we took the time to clean up our oceans. But there are other issues that people have a lot of disagreement on. And we're going to deal with one of those issues today, and that's gun control. Now, just to note before we begin, as teachers, we're humans. We have opinions on these controversial issues. I certainly have very strong opinions on the topic of gun control. When I'm teaching this, I try to remind myself that I'm here to teach a 5-paragraph academic essay on the problem and solution essay genre. And I'm not trying to spend the class indoctrinating my students or getting them to follow along with whatever it is I believe. I want to present the genre of writing, and I want them to present their own ideas to me in a 5-paragraph problem and solution essay. So let's take a look at that right now. Okay, so before we take a look at our mentor text here, let's take a look at how this essay is going to look a little bit different. So first thing to point out here is that our introduction is the same. We hook the reader, we state the problem, and we present our thesis to the reader. Similarly, our conclusion is the same. We're going to signal the end of the writing, we're going to restate the problem and the thesis, and we're going to leave our reader with a strong concluding thought. Okay, so the body paragraphs here or where there's a real difference in your essay. So remember, this is a problem that perhaps maybe people don't know about, or maybe they're just not convinced it's a problem at all. And your first body paragraph, in a way, is its own argument. You need to convince the audience that this is a problem that's worthy of their attention. Why should they even consider your solution? So give a little bit of background, provide some details about this problem. Why is it a problem? And why does it need to be addressed? Then in your second and third body paragraphs, you're going to propose the solution or solutions that you think are best for solving this problem. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the model essay. Okay, so let's take a look at this model essay here. And this is written on the top of the front. So here we can see that the author used a lot of the same strategies that we talked about last week. They've got a good, engaging first sentence. They presented the problem to the reader, and they've got a good, clear, well-placed thesis statement there. Okay, now this first paragraph, this is where things are going to be a little bit different. Here the author is trying to argue that gun violence is a problem and it needs to be addressed. And you can see the author does a really good job of it. A lot of facts and statistics, over 61,000 incidents of gun violence, over 15,000 deaths, 31,000 people being injured, an average of 1 mass shooting per day. So these are all very strong, very compelling. So even if you don't agree with the author's opinion, here he's at least presented his case that this is something that needs to be addressed. So here in these second and third body paragraphs, the author is going to try to convince the reader that his thesis statement is valid. He's arguing for his thesis, which is that we need to limit access to guns for private citizens. So I'm not going to read the entire essay here to you. This is available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store under the Complete Problem and Solution essay, so you can access it there. But I think the author does a very good job of arguing his or her point. And then our conclusion looks largely the same. The author closes here, signaling the end of the essay. He says that this is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. And there's the restatement of our thesis. We can reduce these deaths. We can solve this problem by limiting access to private citizens. And finally, the strong concluding thought, urging lawmakers to act so we can have a safer and more secure future. Well, that's a totally different approach to the problem and solution essay when we're dealing with a controversial issue as opposed to when we're dealing with a well-accepted problem. So you can find this and more on the problem and solution essay in the Teachers Pay Teachers store in the Complete Problem and Solution Essay Teaching Resource. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if it's your first time watching, click like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you soon in another writing.